morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Rappahannock. My name is Molly, and I will be your service leader this morning. These are some words from Miriam Cotter. Welcome to this place of possibility. This is love's hearth, the home of hope, a refuge for minds in search of truth unfolding, ever beautiful and ever strange. Here, compassion is our shelter, freedom our protection from the storms of bigotry and hate. In this abode, may we find comfort and courage. For most of us, there is no need to introduce Marlie. Our lay minister, Marlie Avant, brings an eclectic and soulful approach to her messages and to life. She is passionate about exploring and discovering grace grounded in radical acceptance and fierce love. Her artistic journey intertwines with profound spiritual exploration. She has participated in the Native American Yulai ceremonies, sun dances, and ayahuasca ceremonies alongside the Shua people of the Ecuadorian Amazon. Marlie's studies have extended to Buddhist, Sufi, and non-dual teachers. For in the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, the longest journey you will ever take is the 18 inches from your head to your heart. We are so grateful that Marlie brings her heartfelt and soulful lessons to us here at UUFR. Marlie.
Thank you, Molly. Today I'm going to talk about Camelot as the soul's map, becoming whole enough to love. When the world feels divided, as it does right now, the soul does reach for stories that can remember it back into wholeness, just like our circle last night, just like the circle here. There's something in our soul that calls for us to gather round again to remember our wholeness. The dream of Camelot has lasted because it's not just a story of knights and castles. It's a dream of a more noble way of living, where power is softened by service, where courage is guided by honor, where strength protects the vulnerable, and where the many gather around a center. We know, of course, that Camelot fails. The table breaks, betrayal enters, the kingdom is wounded. But perhaps that is why the story still matters today. It does not give us a perfect world. It gives us a beautiful but wounded dream. And that may be exactly the kind of dream human beings can recognize and relate to. In a time when our own tables are broken, when our families, our politics, and our inner lives can feel divided, Camelot asks a question that we still all need. Can a dream of love, justice, mercy, and noble-hearted community endure when our hearts are so divided? A spiritual guide I studied with for many years once said something to me that I have carried ever since. He said the story of Jesus should have been the story of Camelot. At the time, I did not fully understand what he meant, but I knew enough to hold his words close. He was not a man of many words. He never used language casually. So when he said something like that, I knew it was not meant as a historical claim or a theological argument. It was meant as a key, a symbol, and a doorway. Over the years, I have come to hear it this way. The story of Jesus gives us a radiant outer vision of love forgiveness, mercy, and the divine kingdom. But Camelot gives us the inner map, the soul's struggle to become whole enough to live that vision. Not doctrine, not history, not a replacement, but a mythic echo. The outer command to love must be met by the inner work of becoming whole enough to truly love. Otherwise, love becomes performance or idealism or sacrifice without wisdom or spiritual aspiration without integration. Camelot teaches that the Grail is not found by wishing for holiness. It is found through the long, humbling work of becoming a vessel that can hold it. The round table must be restored within before the kingdom can be restored without. I want to speak personally for a moment because this is not only an old story to me. In my younger years, I was very naive. I was one of those spiritual seekers who believed that if I followed the path well enough and with all my heart, a kind of nirvana would eventually be mine. Some elusive shore where the divisions would resolve and the heart would finally rest. But as I moved forward, it was like chasing a mirage. The closer I thought I was to the water, the more it would evaporate, and the thirstier I became. It was only through a long initiation, a season in which my own heart felt crucified, holding opposites it could not reconcile, that I first truly met the story of Jesus. Not as a doctrine, not as a figure in a book or a big statue in Brazil, but as a companion in an experience of being torn between worlds, of holding what felt like it could not be held, and of being asked to love when love itself at times felt impossible. That was when the Camelot map first began to come alive in me, though I did not yet have words for it. I came to know the figures around the round table not as characters of a legend, but as living forces within the psyche. Arthur carries the dream of a just and sacred kingdom, the part of us that longs to build something noble in this world. The round table holds the longing for communion without hierarchy, a circle where no one sits above the other. Guinevere becomes the feminine soul, and wounded by divided loyalty, finally retreating into the inner chamber where the deepest work begins. Lancelot is the divided heart, noble, passionate, powerful, but not yet humble enough to find his wholeness. And Galahad, born from a tangled human story, becomes the healed vessel, the one whose strength no longer serves ego, conquest, or romantic love. The Grail is the chalice of restored wholeness. The Grail is the chalice of restored wholeness. If we listen symbolically, Camelot becomes less a story of people long ago and more a mirror held up to the inner life. One of the deepest themes of Camelot is betrayal. I'm sure each one of us have experienced that. The betrayal of the king is not only personal, it is the betrayal of the sacred order by the divided human heart. I want to pause here because betrayal is one of the deepest wounds the human heart can know. It's not something to romanticize. It can break trust, fracture families, divide communities, and leave us questioning what we thought we knew and understand and what we could trust. And yet if we're willing betrayal can become a mighty teacher. The word betrayal comes from the Latin tradere, to hand over, from trans and dare, to give, from trans to give. It carries the sense of being handed over, delivered into the hands of another, exposed to pain we did not choose. At the Last Supper, Jesus is said to have sat at the table shadowed by betrayal. He knew treachery was already unfolding, and yet he did not set a table of vengeance. He offered bread. He offered a cup. He offered himself. However we understand the Eucharist, there is a living lesson there. In the presence of betrayal, Jesus did not let betrayal become his teacher in the way of bitterness. He let love remain as his teacher. He chose the higher path, not retaliation, but offering. Not revenge, but forgiveness. Not closing the heart, but allowing the heart to become even more radically open. Camelot gives us another table shadowed by betrayal. Arthur, Guinevere, and Lancelot are caught in a tragic web of love, law, loyalty, and consequence. The round table fractures, the kingdom is wounded. This is why betrayal is so spiritually dangerous and so spiritually revealing. It shows where loyalty is still divided. It shows where law and mercy have not yet learned how to speak to one another. I've known betrayal as all of you have. By spiritual friends I had trusted deeply, and more intimately by family bonds I thought unbreakable. The round table within me shattered. For a long time, the question I held was one that most of us hold. Why was this done to me? Why did they do this to me? My spiritual teacher in that season did not give me many words, as usual. He simply, quietly helped me to see that beneath that question was a deeper one waiting to be asked. What will I offer? What will I offer? Betrayal can hand us over to bitterness, or it can hand us over to collapse, and it can hand us over to shame. But if we're willing, betrayal can also hand us over to our higher self. It can become the tray upon which we offer again and again what is most sacred in us. Truth instead of denial. Humility instead of pride. Forgiveness instead of retaliation. Love instead of vengeance. This does not mean we excuse harm or pretend the wound does not break the heart. It means we refuse to let betrayal decide what kind of person we will become. And then, in time, a deeper humbling arose in me. If we follow the path of betrayal far enough, if the heart keeps opening, if it falls back into something larger than itself, we begin to see another truth. We too have betrayed. We have betrayed life when we turned away from love. We have betrayed the soul when we abandon our own deep knowing. We have betrayed the holy when we forget the sacredness of another human being. We have betrayed God when fear or pride or self-protection become larger than trust. For me, this deepest humbling was this. I came to see that I had betrayed myself. I had betrayed my own inner voice. I had abandoned my own wisdom in seasons when fear was louder than faith. This understanding is not meant to crush us. It is meant to humble us. And humility, when held in mercy, becomes the doorway back to love. I've never found it helpful to speak of sin in a way that buries the soul in guilt or shame. I'm more moved by the older sense of missing the mark. We miss the mark when we forget who we are. We miss the mark when fear clouds love. We miss the mark when ignorance and false belief lead us away from the sacredness of life. In that sense, forgiveness is not about being shamed for our imperfection. It is about being helped back into alignment with ourselves, the soul returning to the aim of love, free of shame. Shame rarely makes us accountable. Shame makes us hide. Shame makes us defend. Shame keeps the ego at the center, even when the ego feels terrible about itself. True accountability, self-accountability, is different. Accountability asks us to see clearly, to feel honestly, to repair what we can, and to return to right relationship. Shame says, I am unworthy. Accountability says, I've missed the mark, and I can return to love. I want to be honest about what happened in me through a long season of holding. I did not set out to fix anyone. I did not have the wisdom to fix anyone. The only work that was given to me was the work within my own heart. Like Guinevere, I eventually retreated into my own inner sanctum, the inner chamber where the deepest work could happen. There was no audience for that work. There was only the slow, often painful tending to what had been broken open in me. Holding, loving, letting grace do what I could not do. There's a deep humbling right there. Letting grace do what I could not do. And in time, not by my doing, but by some larger mercy at work, what had seemed broken began to mend. Relationships healed, a beloved life transformed. The round table I thought I had lost was being slowly restored, not by my hand, but by the grace that moves through any vessel willing to be whole and humble enough to receive. I share this not as some kind of accomplishment. It was anything but that. I share it as a testimony that the inner work is never only inner. When one heart is in a circle, it begins to heal. The whole circle is quietly invited into that healing. I don't understand it, but that's what happens. We are more woven together than we can ever imagine. As we heal ourselves, we are healing others. This brings us back to the Grail. If betrayal hands us over to what wounds us, the Grail asks, what within us can hold the wound without becoming it? It's so easy to become our wound when we're wounded. What vessel can receive grief without turning it into vengeance? What vessel can receive broken trust without becoming closed and shut down forever? What vessel can receive humiliation and let it become humility? What vessel can receive pain and still choose love? The wounded kingdom cannot be healed by force alone or a law alone or even good intentions alone. It needs a vessel spacious enough to hold what has been broken and to transform it. Perhaps the Grail is not far away. Perhaps the Grail is the heart made whole enough to receive life without dividing it. Isn't that what we're facing right now? Everyone is dividing life. We certainly see it in our politics. And what happens is we divide ourselves in the process. That's why this place is such medicine for us. Here we are encircled together, and we are working on that Grail and receiving it. It's asking for the heart that can hold grief and gratitude, eros and agape, strength and tenderness, justice and mercy, the human and the holy, or the sacred. The Grail is found whenever the divided heart becomes a vessel of love and wholeness. So yes, I believe the Grail still can be found. We're finding it right here. Not by purity as perfection, not by spiritual ambition, but by humility, by becoming transparent enough to serve the sacred without trying to possess it. We're open here. We are receiving different ideas and thoughts and beliefs, and we're accepting. This is how we receive the Grail. By allowing the communion table to widen among us, by becoming whole enough to honor one another. This is love. I want to close with something I've rarely spoken of. When I was in my early 20s, long before I'd done any deep diving into Arthurian legend, I had a vision, and it came to me. It was two interlocking circles, but they weren't quite as interlocked as this. But you can see in the center there was more an almond shape, as in our chalice. And on the other side, I'm actually getting another hit on this. I was seeing you a long time ago. These sides, they stayed connected and they carried it all up. And then they came back down and they unfolded around it. And I was curious about it. I didn't know. I was in my late 20s. And later I discovered that I'd seen a very ancient symbol. It's called I want to pronounce it correctly, Vesica Piscis, the holy almond, the sacred geometry formed by two circles overlapping and containing the center of the other. It is a doorway between worlds, the symbol of union, the image of two becoming one without losing themselves, the round table at its truest. And later still, I would find the very image of it carved into the wrought iron cover of the chalice well in Glastonbury, a well that legends name as the resting place of the Grail itself, in the land, the isle of which the wounded Arthur was carried to be healed. It stands the Grail. The holy almond marks the very threshold of the Camelot mystery. The round table I would spend the rest of my life learning to heal was already there, waiting in vision when I was a young woman who could not have explained or understood it. The map was given before the journey began. And I believe this is true with many of us. Some image, some longing, some quiet knowing was placed in each one of us early on, before we had words for it, before we knew that we would need it. The holy does not wait for us to be ready. It plants seeds and trusts that the soul finds its way. And here I am at UU. And here's our symbol, which is really a symbol of the Grail. And what that Grail represents is so beautiful. So may we seek the Grail not as something to possess, but as the sacred wholeness we are called to become. May we tend to the round table within, the place where all parts of us are invited back into the circle, where the divided heart begins to listen to itself again. May we let betrayal, when it comes, hand us not to bitterness, but to humility. May we let our own missing of the mark soften us towards the missing of others. May we hold and love and heal our own hearts and trust that the kingdom around us is quietly mending in response. And may we remember, when the loneliness is great and the path narrow and the work hidden, that we are a part of a long, long lineage of seekers who have walked this way before us. The dark mothers, the desert hermits, the mystics, the lovers of God in every tradition, they are with us. The round table is wider than we could ever imagine. And so it is.
Marlie never fails to say things I feel are just for me. But thank you for inviting everyone else. So we have some time for discussion. If you will please raise your hand so that I can get to the mic. We can all hear, and the folks on Zoom can as well.
I was waiting for you to look this way. I followed you. I listened to what you said, and images from my own life, and the betrayal when I shut out, and the betrayal when I started to step away from that and turned in the other direction. Because in the beginning I was going, so have I really moved beyond that? And I came to realize, yes, I have. But it was helpful to, because those are the things that come up again and again, and you wonder, you know, like, it just, I don't have words for, but anyway, thank you. It was, thank you for the journey today.
These things do come up again and again. As long as we're alive, they will. And that's why I like listening to, just returning to the mark. You just missed the mark and you can return again. It's not
Have sacred geometry on our wall at home. We've got the seed of life and the flower of life. And it's so important in my mind when you look at these circles that overlap, and a small piece of them is an overlapping shared space, but the vast majority of that space is its own. And I think people become subsumed by other people and by traditions and by cultures and expectations, and it's so much healthier to retain the vast majority of yourself as yourself. And I appreciate you bringing that out for us.
I was thinking about the Camelot story, and you could take this at two levels. One is the social level of the ideals of Camelot and King Arthur, and compare that to our country, and that we have really, not that we've honored it all the time, but we've placed a very great importance on certain values of freedom and liberty and generosity and support for others around the world. And respect for each other in the political sphere to the extent possible. Those can fade, you know. And we've seen it in other countries in the world where it certainly happened. So, I don't know, this crazy cage fight this afternoon is like, it's hitting some low that I don't think we've actually quite gotten this low before. So that's at the social level. At the personal level, I do like the idea of becoming whole and setting that as a goal for ourselves. And certainly becoming whole is to deal with personal injury to us, betrayal, or all the tragedies that have occurred to us. And getting back up and turning ourselves back into a real full-fledged human being. So I like that image too. But thanks very much.
Hi.
Hi.
Deep, heavy subject. And yes, betrayal can be devastating. But I ask everyone here, when you have that feeling of betrayal, question whether you in fact were betrayed. That helps healing. And if you were betrayed, understand why. That further helps you become the whole.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, betrayal truly is a gift once we understand it. I think it brings us back to ourselves. You know, the wound, it pierces the heart of many people. That is an opening when we sit with it and don't throw the anger out or the victimhood out. If we bring it back in, it is one of the most healing things in the world. Thank you, Jeff.
That was so beautiful, Marlie. You know, I couldn't help taking Eddie's comment and thinking about the rest of that. How do we take this situation that feels like betrayal? Here we have been taken off the list of religions to face these things and find the most love within us that we can use to get through and find again our ideals.
One of the best ways is finding any way that can take us out of the story, to really feel in to what it's doing to us inside, and to begin healing that. You know, in indigenous cultures, there's a mind in the heart. There's a beautiful mind in the heart. There's a sacred mind in the heart. It knows what to do when we allow ourselves to feel. And if we feel through whatever that is, that's where the humbling, the letting go, the recognizing that I have been trying to fix the world. That's such an ego drive in me that I think I can fix and change the world, or that something out there is what's really wrong, and we all need to attend to it. If we're all doing that, we're all stirring the pot. And all of the sacred teachers have known you've got to pull back and go within. And if you become a calm water, you have an impact with others. They feel it. And we're doing that. Who cares what they're labeling us or not labeling us? They don't understand us. But what happens within circles as we heal our own selves, those are thousands of circles. We are healing cells around us. And I think the thing to do right now is to really focus on our beliefs, focus on what we want to represent. It doesn't matter if they don't understand us right yet. We keep holding the territory. Every sacred teacher and holy man and shaman and Taoist priest, and they have all known that they have to become the still, quiet water. They have to have the Grail within them, and they will make some changes around them. And it won't happen overnight. But that faith and trust in ourselves, in each other, And the gratitude that we're coming like-minded and like-hearted. This is not small. And I believe that there are all kinds of circles gathering all over this planet that are doing this kind of work that we're doing. We may not be the answer to the outsiders right now, but we will come to that, where faiths come together rather than fight one another. But it's a long, hard walk, and we've been chosen for this time. And so as we could stay grounded, if we can find joy as we did last night in the circle, and that's why I love circles, because I know they are happening all over this planet right now. And the important thing is to be with people that are like-minded, that are open-minded, and that's what we have here. Not just like-minded, because sometimes like-minded can shut down and say it has to be our way. We are open-minded, and we have to keep remembering that. When we start to shut down a word that's used, let it hit your heart and ask why, and receive it too. It's just a word. There's something deeper. And when you go beneath that word and inside, then you start doing the healing, the real healing work.